Hi guys, it's Karis. Welcome back to my channel. It has been a long time since I've sat down and filmed a video, but it's summer vacation now and I'm back. As you probably already know, it is now the middle/end of June, which means it's time for our mid-year reading check-in. This year I've challenged myself to read 50 books. I am currently on book 34, which is very exciting, kind of insane. If you want to be friends on Goodreads, the link will be in the description and you can join me on my reading journey, I guess. I don't really know how people format mid-year reading check-ins, so I'm kind of just winging it. I have most of my books separated into the genre. I think it matches. I guess we just start? I don't know. So I'm gonna start with my smallest category, which is classics/poetry books. I only have one poetry book so far for this year, and it is Like Poems by A.E. Stallings. I really loved the poems in here. I annotated a majority of them. The one I annotated the most was actually the very first poem. I really want to read more poetry before the year is over because annotating is like extremely fun. I don't know if you've ever tried it. If you haven't, you should, but I really enjoyed it. The next book that I read was The Great Gatsby. I actually listened to an audiobook of this. I don't think I would have finished it as fast if I had actually sat down to read it, but because I listened to it in audiobook form, I would just like play it while I was in the shower or like in the car, stuff like that. I believe I gave it a 3 out of 5. I don't know, it was kind of boring, but there's some parts that I really loved about it. The next book we have is Pride and Prejudice. This was my first read of this year. I started it in December and finished it in January, so I counted it. I love this book. It took me a really long time to get through, but I just love it so much. It's a classic. And the last book that I have under the classics category is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. I feel like this is a mandatory read for everybody. It's so amazing. I was very surprised to see that the whole story is narrated by death. I thought that it was just gonna be like a first-person story about this little girl, but highly recommend. 5 stars. Next, we're moving into the self-help section. I don't have very many books so far for my self-help category, but I'm hoping to increase that by the time the new year rolls around. So the first one we have is Light is the New Black by Rebecca Campbell. I didn't really enjoy this book as much as I would have liked because it felt super like shallow and on the surface, and when I read self-help books I kind of expect to be like immersed and learn a lot from them, but I didn't really learn a lot of things that I didn't already know from this one, so that was a bit disappointing, but I think it's a great introduction if you don't already know anything about spirituality and energy, stuff like that. Next we have Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Given. I just finished this book. This was my most recent read. I loved it. I think it's a super easy to understand introduction into feminism and kind of dismantling the patriarchy, or whatever the kids say. I also really like the illustrations in this book. There is a ton and they're all super cute. Like I said, great introduction into feminism. You should pick up this book if you haven't already. Next we have The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. I did not like this book very much. You can learn a lot more on YouTube about the law of attraction than you can from this book, because I'm pretty sure this book came out after the movie did, or maybe just this version, but literally everything in this book is said in the movie, and I would prefer to just watch the movie for an hour and a half versus like reading the book. I don't know, wasn't a huge fan, but I do 100% believe in the law of attraction and all of that good stuff. So The Secret, it's nice, but you don't have to read it to understand. The last self-help book that I've read so far is The Actor by Don Miguel Ruiz? I don't know how to say it, and Barbara Emrys. This book is interesting, to say the least. It kind of takes you out of your own body and places you on like this stage and kind of explains to you how we use acting in our day-to-day lives and how we can use it to benefit ourselves and live authentically, if that makes any sense. I don't know, I liked it. That's pretty much all I can say about it. The next category of books that we're gonna move into is new adult slash like adult fiction. The first one that we have is The Infamous Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I loved this book. All the hype. It deserves all of it. It's about this girl who does not age, like she's basically immortal. The catch is everybody forgets who she is as soon as they walk away. So it's like if I walked out of this room and then came back, you wouldn't know who I was. This all happened because of some deal she made in like the 1800s or something with this really scary, really hot dude, but that's beside the point. And then finally somebody remembers her in present day. It was really good. The ending is like, wow. I definitely want to get my hands on some more V.E. Schwab to read this year because I've heard a lot of good things about like Darker Shade of Magic and like Vicious, and I want to read them. But this was a fantastic introduction to her writing. Book Talk really did this one justice. The next book we have is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Oh my god. This book is so good. And the ending, I was like completely speechless. This one is about this girl who basically grows up on her own in like the marsh swamp, whatever of, I forget, is it like North Carolina? I have no clue. Oh yeah, I was totally right. North Carolina. Everyone kind of thinks that she's weird, and then this guy dies and they all blame it on her because she's like the marsh girl. This book is amazing, and if you haven't read it, you absolutely should. I feel like that's gonna be a very common theme in this video, is just me telling you to read these books because they truly are so good. Then the next book that we have is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and again, Jesus, this book is so good. Taylor Jenkins Reid really knows what she's doing. This book is about Evelyn Hugo, who is a Hollywood movie star. She's recounting all of the tales from her life about the 7 husbands that she's had. Yeah, honestly, that's like all I can say about this book. It was heartbreaking, like actual tears. And then last, but certainly not least, for the new adult fiction category, we have this fantasy book, From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This one is definitely 18 and up. I'm not 18, but you can judge for yourself. There's a lot of spicy things that happen in this book, but it's really good. I like from literally like page 15 I was sucked in, and you could not get me to stop reading this. So good. The plot twist, I was like I expected it, but I didn't expect it, you know? Read this. I need to get the second and third books in this series. I just haven't yet because they're kind of expensive. I think it was like $15, like that's expensive. Oh, sorry, that wasn't the last. The last book from this category is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I don't have my copy with me because my best friend Jaylee is hopefully reading it and not just letting it sit in her room. But that book, like solid 10 out of 10. It was so amazing. So there's Poppy and Alex. They're best friends forever. They go on a vacation every single year together. And they have for like 12 years or something, and then one year something really bad happens and they stop talking and they're not friends anymore. But then Poppy is like, I miss you, Alex, let's go on vacation. And Alex is like, okay. Then they go on vacation and a lot of things happen and it's amazing, and I cried, and you should read it. The next category of books that we have is just classic YA fiction, everything you would expect a teenager to say that they like to read. First book we have is One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. This book was really good. I enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite, but it was good. It's about these 4 high school students, well technically 5, but one of them dies. That's not a spoiler, it says in the synopsis. Yeah, one of them dies, and then these are the 4 suspects, and they have to try and figure out who killed the dude that died. I wasn't surprised when we found out who the murderer was because I kind of suspected it, but I do enjoy their stories. I really liked hearing about, what's her face? Gwen, is that her name? I don't know. I really liked hearing about her life. Wow, her name is definitely not Gwen, it's Bronwyn, so there's that. If YA is your thing, you should definitely read this book. Next we have The Beginning of Everything. I did not like this book. I'm sorry, Robin Schneider. I just didn't like this book at all. It felt so incredibly unrelatable and the ending was not good. Like, it just... yeah, I don't know. You can read this book, but beware. Let me tell you what it's about. It's about this guy named Ezra Faulkner, and he was like homecoming king, like top tier, like popular kid, and then he got in a car accident and all of his friends just dumped him. So here's the thing with this book. He gets into a car accident and then all of his friends just like leave him, but then all of his friends like come back to him and they're like, hey, hang out with us, and he's like, no, like, you guys don't like me anymore. Like, why would they ask you to hang out with it? I don't get it. So he's just, I don't know, he's so angsty and it's really annoying. Like, there's bigger problems in the world. Like, then this new girl, Cassidy, comes in and suddenly she thinks that she has like the biggest problem in the world, and her problem is like minuscule, like minuscule. It's really annoying. Anyways, next we have Take Me Home Tonight by Morgan Matson. This book was really good. The beginning was a bit slow and the relationship between the two main characters was a little bit toxic almost, but they resolved things in the end. My camera just died and it literally scared the frick out of me. So I was talking about Take Me Home Tonight by Morgan Matson. It's about two best friends who are theater kids. That's what they do. They do theater together. I don't know. And then they spend a night in New York and a bunch of things go wrong, and they kind of come out of the night with a huge realization about their friendship and like their lives and stuff. And there's also this side story about one of their friends who's like babysitting kids, and it's like insane. That was a bit far-fetched, but I mean, that's the point of reading, right? To experience things that don't actually happen in real life. The main reason that I picked it up is because I'm a theater kid and I love reading about theater, so that was really interesting. But it was good. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Next is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This book was pretty good. I think Book Talk definitely overhyped it. It's not a 5 out of 5 star read for me. It's maybe a 4. It's about two people who die. I don't really know how else to explain it. I don't really know what it is about this book that I just didn't really like care that much for. Mateo, his story was a little shallow. Like, I would have loved to see it go a bit deeper than just like his dad. And then Rufus, don't really think I liked the way that Silvera wrote him, but obviously that's, I don't have any control over that. Like, he's an author, it's his art. It just wasn't really like my cup of tea. I don't know. You can read this. Book Talk loves it. I'm sure a lot of people out there love it. It just wasn't for me. Then we have Things We Know by Heart. This book is part of the reason I have such high standards. Things like this don't happen in real life, but we can just pretend they do, right? Because I would love to pretend that this would happen in real life. It was great. Next we have Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. A lot of people didn't like this book, and I guess I could see why, because it's not like super like adventurous like all of his other books, but I enjoyed it. It's about this girl who has OCD and she is trying to be what everybody wants her to be, and she's just struggling with that, I guess. There's this giant $100,000 reward. I forget why. I don't really remember any details from this book. I just remember that I enjoyed it and I didn't really understand why people didn't like it. So yeah, read this book. I liked it. Next we have The Inheritance Games. I don't understand the hype of this one. I returned it to Amazon because I finished it within the 30-day time period, so I got my money back. It's not that I like hated it enough to where I had to return it. I was just like, oh, I can return it, might as well. It's about this girl who has like absolutely no connection to this family, and then when this dude dies, he like leaves all of his money to her. I don't know, it's weird. It was okay. Read it if you want. I don't know, I'm not gonna stop you. It wasn't that bad to where I'd be like, don't read this. The last book we have for this category is All Our Broken Pieces by L.D. Crichton. I did not like this book. I thought that the main character was extremely annoying, and the love interest was also extremely annoying, and the only character that had any depth really was the mean sister, but she didn't get a backstory. So like all of the books that I don't really like, you can read it if you want. It might be good, you might love it. I just am not a fan. The next category we have is YA fantasy. Wow, I have become a fantasy reader. I never thought this day would come, but here I am. So first we have The Darkest Minds, book 1 and 2 by Alexandra Bracken. I don't know. I enjoyed what I did read. I have the third book and I'm not going to read it because I didn't like it that much. There was just not enough good parts in this book to outweigh the bad parts in this book. And the action scenes, I could not understand a single bit of it. And maybe it's just because I didn't like read slow enough or whatever, but I don't know. If you can't keep up with my brain, then that's not my problem. I didn't find Ruby to be like super likable. When the main character is not likable, it kind of ruins the whole thing. If you do want to read this book or this series, it's about these people who have magical powers, and they escape from the place that keeps them from using their magical powers, and they join the world, and there's like this camp where people who have magical powers go to be safe. So when they go and try and find this camp, they like experience a lot of things on the way, and it just really wasn't that great. That's it. That's all I can say about it. Then we have book 1 of The Hunger Games. I also listened to this book in audiobook format. I believe I also listened to the second book, but I don't remember, so I don't have it on my Goodreads. And I kind of want to put it up there because I'm pretty sure I did, but I also don't know because I know I watched the movies like 5 times, so maybe it's just like interfering. But I read the first one and it was amazing. The Hunger Games is great. Suzanne Collins really hit it on the head with this one. I will never get tired of reading this book. If you haven't read this book, I don't know what you're doing with your life. You need to stop this video right now, purchase it, enjoy it, that's all. Then we have books 1 through 3 of the Harry Potter series. I'm currently on book 4. It's like sitting on my bed right over there. I'm on chapter 3. I love Harry Potter, but book 2 can go die in a hole. Gilderoy Lockhart is so freaking annoying, like so annoying. It basically ruins the entire book, but books 1 and 3, unbeatable. I don't know why you wouldn't know what Harry Potter's about, but it's about like magical wizards and witches and Hogwarts and trolls and fun things like that. So you should go read it if you haven't. And the last category that we have is the Grishaverse. I know that this is not a genre, but there's enough books to where it might as well be its own genre. I'm gonna go in the order of which you should read the Grishaverse. All of these books are by Leigh Bardugo, our queen. So first is Shadow and Bone. This trilogy is so freaking good. How do I even begin to explain this book? It's about this girl named Alina. She's like a normal girl until one day she isn't anymore, and she's suddenly like the sun summoner. She's Grisha now. She has magical powers. She can summon the sun. And there's this guy, the Darkling. I personally believe in Darkling supremacy, but a lot of people on Book Talk would have my head for saying that. I choose to live life on the edge. Anyways, Alina basically has to face a lot of challenges now because most Grisha find out that they are Grisha when they're like 9 years old or something like that, and she's like 17. How old is she? I don't know. She's either 16, 17, or 18, and she has to like learn everything from scratch basically because she never knew that she could summon literal literal sunlight. So yeah, she faces a lot of challenges. The Darkling is very morally gray. Ben Barnes plays him in the show. The show is amazing. You should read the books and then watch the show. And then we have Siege and Storm, which is the second book in the series. Fantastic. A lot of people on Book Talk didn't like this book. I don't know why. I thought that it was fantastically entertaining, and Nikolai, he's the love of my life. You have no idea what I would give to be Mrs. Lantsov. Like, that would be peak of my life. There's these things called amplifiers, which they give to Grisha, and when a Grisha has one, their powers are amplified, essentially. The three of these books are all about like different amplifiers. The first one has a stag on the cover because it's about finding the stag, which is an amplifier. And then this one is about finding like this serpent, which is an amplifier. And then the last book, Ruin and Rising, has a phoenix on it. It's also about finding the phoenix, which is an amplifier. And then this book, wow, that's all I can say. Yeah, this entire trilogy is just fantastic. Also, Shadow and Bone was renewed for a second season, which is like highlight of the entire year right there. Next, we have the Six of Crows duology, also in the Grishaverse. Oh my freaking god, this duology, so good. Kaz Brecker is my second husband. So Six of Crows is basically about this group of people, criminals, and they have to break into this thing called the Ice Court, which is like a very heavily protected prison, basically. They have to pull off this heist, and it's extremely difficult, and a lot of things happen, and you should read it because it is fantastic. And then Crooked Kingdom is about the same 6 people plus a couple others from the last book. Honestly, I probably couldn't even tell you what half of this book was about. I just remember that I loved every second of it. I read it in the car on the way back from LA and I was literally crying, so read it. If you only listen to one thing I have to say this entire video, let it be read all of the Grishaverse. It's so good, and Leigh Bardugo, our queen, is such an amazing writer and storyteller. And then last but not least, we have King of Scars. This is the first book in the duology about Nina, Nikolai, and Zoya, which are characters from all of the other books. Nina is from Six of Crows, and Nikolai and Zoya are from Shadow and Bone. I have book 2, I just haven't gotten around to reading it yet because I was taking a break after all of the things that happen in this book. It's so good. Read the Grishaverse. Read it, enjoy it, love it, and then talk to me about it because I'm still not over Crooked Kingdom. I don't think I ever will be. That's it, I think. Yeah, that's it. It makes me feel so much better knowing that I'm over halfway through my Goodreads reading challenge because I know for a fact as soon as I get into college, I'm probably not going to be reading as much as I am right now. I'm trying my hardest to fit as many books as I can into this summer. I'm planning on double majoring next year, which is gonna be insane. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. Comment down below how far along you are in your Goodreads goal if you are participating in that, or maybe even just tell me what your favorite book this year has been so far and why, what your least favorite book has been so far and why. If you have any recommendations for me, all of that good stuff. I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye.